This week we'll be studying the digestive system, and so it's going to be a lot more than we had last week, but it's actually pretty easy to follow, so I think you guys will be okay. We know that most nutrients that we eat, we can't use them directly. They have to be broken down into smaller pieces before they're usable by the body. And so you can think of the digestive system like a disassembly line. So it's breaking down nutrients into a form that the body can use. And then the second part of that is to absorb them, those nutrients, so that they can be distributed throughout the body to all of the tissues. And they also eliminate a residue. So the digestion happens in 5 stages: ingestion, digestion, absorption, compaction, and then finally defecation. And we'll be spending most of our time on digestion and absorption. So digestion can be broken into 2 categories: mechanical digestion, which is our physical breakdown of food into smaller pieces. So the food, when we take a bite, into smaller pieces than that, and we do this with our teeth, cutting and grinding. And also, we don't think about this, but the churning action that happens in the stomach and the small intestines, that's still breaking down the food into smaller pieces. By doing this, our food surface is larger, and so there's more food surface that's exposed to the digestive enzymes throughout the digestive system. And then the second type of digestion is chemical, and this is a series of reactions that break down the macromolecules into their monomers. So we're going to be focusing at one video in this chapter. We'll be focusing on carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids, and how they actually break down into their monomers. This is carried out by digestive enzymes that are coming from the salivary glands, the stomach, the pancreas, and the small intestines. And then it lists there your carbohydrates into sugars, your proteins into amino acids, fats into fatty acids, and then nucleic acids into nucleotides. Those are just our 4 macromolecules that you should already be familiar with. Some nutrients that we ingest don't need any digestion. They can be absorbed without any digestion. So those include vitamins, amino acids that are not a protein, minerals, cholesterol, and water. Digestive system overall has kind of 2 subdivisions if we're just looking at the anatomy. So the top half is the digestive tract. It's often called the alimentary canal. That includes the mouth, pharynx, esophagus, stomach, small intestines, and large intestines. And then the GI tract, or the gastrointestinal tract, just includes the stomach and intestines. So I'll just be honest, I think alimentary canal gets used a little bit more, but just so you know the difference between those 2 terms. And then we're also going to include accessory organs: teeth, tongue, salivary glands, liver, gallbladder, and pancreas. Those are either helping with mechanical digestion or chemical digestion, or secreting enzymes. So that was weird. So most of the digestive tract follows a kind of basic structural plan, and so this is looking at the canal and the tissue layers going from in to out. The inner surface is mucosa. It has the epithelial layer, and then the lamina propria, and then finally the muscularis mucosae. And then out from that is the submucosa, and then we go to the muscularis externa, and then finally the serosa. Now you won't see all 4 of these layers at all parts of the digestive tract, but we'll talk about where we see each one. We're going to see the mucosa, the mucous membrane, all the way throughout. And so it is epithelial layer first, but it's simple columnar epithelium through most of the digestive tract, but then the mouth through the esophagus, and then in the lower anal canal we see stratified squamous instead of simple columnar. And that's because those areas have more abrasion, and so more layers of epithelium are required. And then there's a loose connective tissue binding that epithelial tissue, and then behind that, or outside from that, a thin layer of smooth muscle. We'll see what the muscularis mucosa does at certain spots, but for the most part, it's just creating grooves and ridges to increase the surface area and the contact with the food. We kind of take that layer for granted, and we don't really think about it as being smooth muscle, but it is. Throughout the digestive tract, especially in the esophagus, the stomach, and the intestines, we're going to see what's called the enteric nervous system. And this nervous system is a huge nervous system, thought to have over 1 million neurons, more than the spinal cord. And so these neurons are working at regulating motility, secretion, and blood flow throughout the digestive system. They are working independent of the CNS, but the CNS is significantly influencing what's happening, and it's made of 2 networks of neurons, the submucosal plexus and the myenteric plexus. Again, we're going to go through when we look at what those muscles are doing, what peristalsis is, that it'll make more sense why this many neurons is necessary. So within the digestive tract, we're going to see a few mesenteries. They're connective tissue sheets that kind of hang the stomach and intestines from the abdominal wall. And they are full of blood vessels. So when you dissect, you'll be able to see that. They're a route for blood vessels and nerves to the digestive tract. They also have lots of lymph nodes and lymphatic vessels as well. This gives you a little bit more in depth about mechanisms that are controlling the motility and secretion of the digestive tract. And this feels a little premature to me because it's going to make sense for you to learn about the motility and the secretion first. And so these are going to come back up again. But just realize that neurons and hormones and secretions from the pancreas are all kind of helping move this digestive system along. So it's quite an extensive system of checks and balances, if you want to think about it that way. So for neural control, we have short and long reflexes. The short reflexes help stimulate the peristalsis, and again, we'll talk about what that means. The long reflexes are signaling back into the brain for motility and secretion. We know we have hormones going throughout the body for all different chemical messengers, and the digestive system is no different. So the hormones here are secreted into the bloodstream, and we'll talk about specifically gastrin and secretion. And then finally, when we talk about the pancreas, we'll look at those enzymes. They are diffusing through the tissue fluids and stimulate nearby target cells. So they are kind of short-range messengers. So let's take a look at inside the oral cavity and the tongue and the teeth, and I'm actually going to backtrack because we're going to save this for a separate video.